What's up guys, welcome back to Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. Today we're going to be doing a video on how to select your fancy goldfish. So make sure you stay tuned to find out more. Hey Fanatics family, welcome back. Remember to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to keep update with our future uploads. Also, click the link in the description and join our Fancy Goldfish Fanatics Facebook group if you're not already part of it. Today's episode is all going to be on selecting your Ranchu from your shop or your retailer. I know this closely ties in with the last video I did, looking for key qualities in your Ranchu and your fancy goldfish. However, today I thought, as I'd done that previous video, it was good to follow up with an extra video just on looking at different colour patterns, how to choose your fish compared to other fish in the tanks, what to look for, making sure you haven't got a diseased fish or there's anything potentially wrong with it. Also, on a positive note, as you saw a few videos ago, we got the outdoor tank filled up. Well, today I've just done 100% water change, make sure there's no chemicals from the fiberglass leaching into the water, so I've really freshened that up. And I've actually been told that the new fish are arriving this week, so that's really exciting. So they're going to be arriving in about 4 days now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sponge filters outside as soon as they arrive, so they have an instant cycle, and also I'm going to put the heater on the tank outdoors because it's not quite warm enough. We want to get it to around 16 degrees, something like that. So the heater's actually turned off in this tank now, so these are the ambient room temperature, around 19 to 20 degrees, and then the fish, when they come outside, will have a tank around 16, and then slowly over the next few weeks, hopefully the temperatures creep up a little bit, and then we can put these guys outside. And then hopefully by that time, the fish will have spawned at my friend's house, and we'll have a few fry to grow on and see how they develop. So that's really exciting. But obviously today's video we're going to be looking at a few fish in the blue bowl, and we're going to be identifying some qualities and what to look for. But just before we look at the fish, I just want to highlight a few key things to look for when selecting your fancy goldfish. Number one, you want to check that there's no parasites in the tank. Fish will normally be flicking or flashing on the bottom or the sides of the tank. Alternatively, they will be sitting right at the top, quite listless, not really moving. Maybe their pectoral fins will be moving a little bit. You also want to make sure they aren't flicking their pectoral fins really quickly, as if they're irritated and agitated trying to get something off. They also don't want to be sitting right on the bottom of the tank and not being very active, so that's something to look out for. You also want to make sure the fish are well fed, they've got nice round bellies, and you can see there's waste in the tank that's not looking like there's any parasites present, because you will see there might be a lot of waste in the tank that's clear or whitish colour if there's possible internal parasites, so just have a little look for that. You also want to make sure the tanks aren't smelling of any ammonia, and possible water quality could be bad, because this will obviously affect the fish over a long period of time, and it's not good to buy a fish that's been subjected to that water quality. Also, when selecting fish, you want to make sure your fish are all a similar-ish size. You don't want to be buying one 6-inch Ranchu or 8-inch Aranda and then a little 1-inch fish, because there might be a little bit of hierarchy in the tank or a little bit of competitive eating. Obviously, this is pretty diverse range of sizes, but if you've got a fish 6-inch Ranchu and a 2-inch Ranchu, that's absolutely fine. But you don't want to be purchasing any fish that are really small that could potentially fit in your other fish's mouth, so that's just another thing to keep an eye out for. You also want to ask a few questions, maybe ask your retailer or your specialist what they're feeding their fish, what the current temperature is, because you want to closely match that with your tank at home and your shop's tank. You might also want to find out if your fish is male or female, because I know some people prefer to keep female or male only tanks, just so there's no spawning activity, which can happen quite a lot in fancy goldfish tanks, especially as the temperatures are slightly elevated. And you also just want to observe the fish, its swimming pattern, if it's lopsided, or maybe it's even got a buoyancy issue. You want to see that fish sitting nice and flat in the water. It's got good swimming action, it's not too clunky, or it's not too lazy, so to say. And you want to see that all the fins are moving and it's just swimming nice and elegantly, because the swimming pattern is a key factor to look for when selecting your fish, especially with the higher grade fish, because quite often you can get fish that are quite lazy and they won't move around too much, and it's not very nice to observe in your tank. So now I've gone over a few little bits to look for when selecting your fish from your local shop or your online dealer. Now let's take a look at a few of the fish from the tank, look at a few different attributes they've got, and a few little positives and negatives that you might be able to apply in your future purchasing. So as you can see, I've got my lovely little trusted koi towel, and then we've got the blue bowl here. So we're going to be bowling up a few of the fish, and we're going to be looking at a few of their different attributes. So the first fish we've got to look at is this little calico. I thought I'd do a little range of sizes to look at. So as you can see here, the wen is really nice and full on this fish, and it's always good to look for a nice large wen when selecting younger fish. You want to see that there's some wen growth evident on either side of the head, above, and also just below on the chin area, because that is a good sign that there's going to be prominent wen growth in the future. Also, I didn't mention any colour patterns in the last video, so I thought I'd just talk about a few of the colour patterns that you can see. As you can hopefully see on this fish, it's got this like bluish tint on the base. So with calicos, you want to look for that white, nice snow white base, but also with the black coming through, which gives the Ranchu this bluish hue. You also want to see that the orange is nice and deep and it's quite thick. It's quite hard to describe how the colour can be thick, but you'll notice that in a weaker calico, the orange will be quite faded, especially as a fish gets larger, this colour might and tends to fade away. You also want to notice that the black colour, as you can see just on the back here, is nice and strong, and it's nice and thick throughout, because this will also contribute to that blue base that you see. You might not be able to see it, but in this video, this fish has got a slight swim bladder problem, and it actually kicks up just at the back. You want, as I said previously, you want to see the fish swimming at a nice flat angle. Also, when we look at the tail on this fish, it's nice and splayed open, and hopefully you can see that split just along the tail, which is really good, because if a fish has got a fused tail, it will have that fused tail for life. So if you're picking out small fish, always make sure the tail is split. And then, as I said previously, the anal fins, it should have those 2 double anal fins. And the fish should look nice and clear underneath. No ulcers, no redness, or no signs of any bacterial problems. So that's it for the first calico. Let's get her back. So the next fish I thought we'd look at was a red and white Ranchu. You want to make sure that white is a nice snow white. As you can see, this is a lovely white fish. However, when you look at the top of the fish, there is some red hue that comes through. This is quite weak, and the pattern has obviously faded as the fish has got older. Although it has a lot of good attributes, this fish isn't quite perfect because there is that red hue that comes through. However, the rest of the pattern that you can see is a nice thick colour, especially behind the head. Hopefully you can see that. And the fish has got a nice big wen. It's always good to see that pattern and that colour robing around over the lateral line, and you can see that the pattern is nice and sparse and spread out throughout the fish. And also it's quite nice to see the redness in the fins, the anal fins and the dorsal fin, and then also throughout the pectoral fins, which is good to see. Obviously this fish has got quite a big wen, and this probably would have been quite prominent as a younger fish. And you can see that its swimming pattern throughout the bowl is quite nice. It's quite active and it's using all of its fins. You also want to be aware of the fins underneath. Sometimes they can get broken or damaged. As you can see here, there's a slight piece of old damage where the fin had been split previously. So just make sure, if your fish has any of that evident, you want to make sure that it's nice and healthy and it will repair itself. So now let's look at one more fish. We've looked at the red and white, the calico, and now let's take another look at the cow ranchu. So the cow ranchu is a really popular fish nowadays, and it's really trendy. Obviously, a lot of these calicos are coming from China, or these cows, sorry, are coming from China. So they have this mini tail, as you can see here. Although the mini tail doesn't splay out quite as large as the big tails, you want to make sure that that tail is nicely splayed, because once it's closed up, it detracts from the overall fish. Obviously, you can see this is female, so it's nice and round. When selecting females on the larger fish, you want to see that the fish is even throughout, so it's not too lopsided on one side, or it's not swimming badly, because these larger fish can have more complications, especially when shipping. As you can see here, the head is nice and clear. It's better if you can get a head that's whiter, however this will normally command a higher price, but you can see the head isn't too yellowish on this fish. And you can also see that black pattern, and the orange is nice and deep, and it's not looking like it will break up anytime soon. One of the major things you want to look for on the calico is the white base. You can see there's a little bit of black coming through, but overall this fish has a really nice white base. You will often get sold fish that are actually not cow ranchu, and that actually are water ink. So water ink is where the black is coming through the white, however it hasn't fully developed, and it is actually technically a calico, but these are often sold as cow ranchu as they only have that black and white contrasted look. But these aren't, unfortunately, calicos, so just be aware of looking for that and making sure you aren't buying a water ink when you're really being charged for a cow ranchu. You can also see that the head is nice and even. The swimming pattern is really good on this fish. It's really hard to tell in the bowl, unfortunately, but hopefully you could see that in the previous video. If you haven't seen the previous video, it's definitely worth checking out. But that's it really to look at this fish, and we saw it in the last video. Nice and healthy, and yeah, it's got that nice split in the tail as well, which is what you want to look for in a high quality fish. So let's get her back and then we can wrap up the video. So that's it for this episode. In the next episode, you're actually going to be seeing the new fish arrive, which is really exciting. So make sure you subscribe so you can see that video. And the tank is already outdoors, and I can't wait for the new fish to arrive. So thank you all for watching. Remember to keep your water changes up, and happy fish keeping.